I think it's been a good week or so since I let everything sink in with the Avengers project trailer from E3 2019. This is a new collab between IAS Montreal and Crystal Dynamics, hailing from distinctive bits of fanfare involving highly rated games with a British woman who could jump good and a man who never asked for this. We didn't hear much from this project after a conceptual teaser was presented to us about our fallen heroes in 2017. I like to believe that we've been headed on this imminent crash course of anticipation due to a giant lack of information until now. I'd like to preface this video and say there is some goodwill on behalf of the developers, citing that they are listening to fan feedback, which is the best compromise for everybody. Although they did say they're not really going to alter any of the costume designs that much from the base costumes, but they did say they might change things around like the faces, so that would be a good start, I guess. That being said, I like to start out with some positives on what I thought about Marvel's Avengers so far being done by Crystal Dynamics and IAS Montreal. They came right out and said, fuck loot boxes and pay to win microtransactions. This swiftly puts up the middle finger to developers who use and abuse this practice for nefarious means for people who pay to use this model to get better loot and better weapons. These developers include EA, Activision, and of course Naughty Dog. This instills a little bit of respect for the developers, saying that we'll be getting a free roadmap of DLC that expands the story for free. This premise has me more excited of the notion of more heroes being pulled from the Marvel universe, as we saw at the end of the first trailer with Hank Pym experimenting on Pym particles and shrinking things. I smell the potential of Scott Lang showing up down the road on this one as Ant-Man. Maybe Hank himself will don the costume yet again. This free roadmap could lead to an ensemble roster like the Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe Spider-Man, maybe Fantastic Four, X-Men, etc. The possibilities are endless considering the fact that the Disney-Fox merger has been complete and Fantastic Four will be a DLC option in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. Not sure if the Marvel gaming universe will be a thing with Spider-Man PS4 and the Avengers project. There are various nods to Taskmaster showing up to fight the Avengers along with the Golden Gate Bridge being destroyed, referencing the West Coast battle, but I wouldn't mind if this was actually true and there was some crossover between Spider-Man PS4 and the Avengers project. They're already doing a PS4 exclusive beta, so I don't see why not. Even if Crystal Dynamics gave me their own rendition of Spider-Man, as the opposite effect, I would be appeased if he was written well as a responsible and somewhat irresponsible web-slinging ass-kicker. Offline and online co-op is still a big draw for me, probably one of the biggest because I don't own a Switch for Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. It's going to add more replay value of teaming up with your friends or going alone to enjoy certain experiences. This game is also said to have branching paths between various characters, so Hulk might be doing something a little bit different in between sections as opposed to Thor when you're doing something different and briefly separated for a set piece. I like those notions because it's going to command you and see how all these scenarios play out with each different character you want to choose. I'm especially interested on how they'll handle the notion of Captain America's death. Even though I think it's all a ruse, I think it's all a ploy. If Mjolnir is erupting from Steve's grave, I don't think they would kill such a vital character like that. Something is going on with that hammer erupting, and I think it's probably going to revive Steve. I think early on Steve might have like extensive flashbacks and then come back at the end and they'll do some hey hurrah ass kicking nature to that effect, and then it's going to be all awesome and cool. Couple that in with the AAA budget and I think you have a game that feels like it's larger than life, a game that's taking itself seriously with the scope that's being presented. Before we move on to the negative, I think it would be wise to address a few controversies from the community, mostly involving the lack of MCU likenesses being used, Steve's suit being hated on, and the Avengers project looking like a mobile game to some people. Number 1, let's address this MCU likeness thing not being utilized and people being salty over it. Do you think it's wise to shell out money just to have a likeness of actors used with a high net worth? Do you think that Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans runs cheap, motherfuckers? Do you think that America's ass is only sold $1 per pound? All you should expect is suits from the Marvel Cinematic Universe utilized at best for DLC or cosmetics, and that's it. I expect no further connections apart from that. Number 2, at least the characters are fully customizable, as I've been told. So if you don't like Steve Rogers as a hockey player like me, then just take the damn thing off and change it. Besides, Captain America's design in this game can't be as bad as any design Rob Liefeld has made in the past decade with Captain America. So far, I think we're good on that front. I think we're kosher. I think we're okay. Just don't look like this garbage and you'll be fine. Number 3, I'm not a fan of everything this game presents on graphics, but I wouldn't say it looks like a mobile game. I would say you have bad depth perception if you think this looks anywhere near the quality of a mobile game or a PS2 game. Alrighty, so on to the real negatives. I feel they didn't show off much gameplay, and the behind the closed doors presentation from Game Informer is a cause for concern. Avengers is cited to be very rough around the edges at the moment from a gameplay perspective that tends to be rife with quick time events, or QTEs for short. The team has until May 2020 to iron this out, but a summary from the Game Informer preview boils Avengers down to being clunky, unpolished, needs enhancing, but the Hulk was awesome, everything else was meh. This is not endearing words from a AAA studio, so you need to iron out the kinks here to make everything engaging. I'm really hoping that I'll be proven wrong 100% with this one, and the developers are ensuring that they are listening to all feedback from a gameplay perspective on the demo shown at E3 behind closed doors. Yes, I did see the leaked gameplay from the amazing Lucas, and wildly enough, he isn't wrong on the notion that what we have seen is something that we really have seen before with this beat 'em up style of punches, kicks, and powers and air combos. It really isn't anything new to this medium. I suppose what is already established has to feel good, fluid, and play immaculate to what we're being presented. The fundamentals need to be obvious, along with taking some subverted risks with the single player and co-op to squash out any ideals of repetition along the way. This is the Avengers, a larger than life team, somewhat dysfunctional, with dysfunctional heroes who might not get along, heroes who might fail along the way, heroes who might fight. So I feel like they should subvert expectations, maybe have some boss battles with the Hulk and have the heroes fighting each other for a particular stage. That would be nuts. That would be crazy. Next negative on the list is this game being tailored as a service, continuous single player. While there's going to be free DLC roadmaps for new chapters and playable characters, I think the games for service deal is going to be questioned in the long run. It already sucks that Hawkeye is not going to be in the base game, along with other potential Avengers who could be added down the pipeline. I know people will try to make the argument that you can't complain about free, but this is essentially an incomplete $60 game being sold to you in bits. They're pulling the same thing with Final Fantasy VII Remake, giving Midgar only and not Nibel or Calm Village, so it needs to be said for what it is. This new development process from Square kind of blows my mind, and I don't know why people fall for it. This begs the question of what happened to $60 experiences being complete at launch. Marvel's Avengers would need to add in enough in the base game to justify exclusions like Hawkeye chapters from the base roster. Everyone is going to flip their shit if the base game winds up being short and we have to wait later for more chapters in order for the game to be complete. It's going to be a giant fuck you to the fan base if they do that. Square is already seeking compensation in the long term for these ideas, rolling around potential ideas about a streaming service. So I think it could be an inevitable practice we're looking at here to gain top dollar in the long run with this game being sold digitally on their own storefront. I know people have been complaining about the faces. I feel like that could be subjective. I can understand if you don't like certain costumes. They did say they're fixing the faces at least, and like I said earlier, they're customizing the costumes in ways where supposedly you won't even have the same costume at base. Thor and Black Widow are looking pretty ugly. So yeah, I really hope that they get on the ball with fixing the faces as soon as possible, because they are not good lookers like Chris Hemsworth and Scarlett Johansson. I can say that much to that extent. But they did lie about something. They lied about the idea of microtransactions being scrapped entirely within their game. I think they butter up our cocks on stage when they said, oh, we're not having pay to win, loot boxes, micros, all that shit. And then they turned around and said, oh, we're having micros though, but it won't affect anything going on in the game in terms of trying to boost levels and things like that. I'm hoping that it will be related to a mostly cosmetic level. You people already know this. I really don't care about microtransaction cosmetics. They're in every game. If they don't affect gameplay, I don't give a shit. I'm being perfectly 100% brutally honest with you. I do not care about cosmetics. Should they be in the game if I had the decision to say so? Yes. Do they really bother me to go out of my way and say, hey, maybe I'll get this cosmetic for like $1 or something, I want to look a little different? No, it doesn't bother me that much because it's just clothes. If they're not paying to win, to grind and gain levels and shit, if it's basically something skill based and you can acquire it in game, you know how I feel about this already with DMC5, and I think that the micros in that game really didn't bother me that much. If they're minuscule and non-intrusive, then I'm okay with that. But Square, you need to understand, I don't think your people should have got on stage and lied to people about that and said, we're not having this stuff in our game, but we're having it in anyway with later interviews, and it's only going to be a cosmetic thing. I think you should have been 100% transparent with that notion. You should have talked to people about this. You should have said there were going to be micros in our game on stage and just detailed it on stage instead of being asked in interviews later, instead of saying, you know, we have all this stuff that's not in our game, but these practices are in our game anyway to a lesser extent. I don't believe you should have been dishonest about saying that on stage. Another thing that really bugs me, and I've seen this in various interviews, the co-op campaign is only going to be regulated to side missions, and it's not going to be any full-blown campaign co-op in the story, meaning that the single player that you did see in the Avengers trailer, that's going to be a single player experience, and you can only get co-op via side missions. So you have this feature, right? You have co-op, awesome. You can play with another friend, maybe 4-player co-op, do all this stuff, etc. Then they come out and they say, hey, we're not going to have a campaign centered around co-op. Instead, you will be able to unlock side missions where you could play with various characters, upgrade your character from there, which confirms a leveling system as well. That's very interesting, but you can upgrade your character as well doing these side missions, and it's the only time you'll be able to do co-op. I find that as something piss poor. You need to fix this. At least make these co-op mini campaigns that really isn't centered around the bombastic nature of the single player plot. You know, I understand you're doing all these dynamic events. I understand you're doing branching paths with the story in single player where you could play with different characters and have different experiences. I understand that could be a time consuming process to code and get that right. However, that being said, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 has co-op throughout the entire story. There is no excuse. You should be able to team up with a buddy, even if it's a non-canon scenario. Make like 5 chapters, 4 chapters, make it like there's these non-canon missions that center around the main events of the game, and you could play them up to 30 minutes to an hour and have fun with that. These side missions need to be fleshed out, not some fucking run-of-the-mill I beat up everyone around the stage and I get points bullshit. I don't know why you're putting co-op in your game if it's not expansive. It makes absolutely no sense. Honestly, I don't know why they would even say I have co-op in the game, but it's only going to be side missions only. That's another thing they weren't transparent about. That's another thing they should have elaborated on upon stage, instead of saying your game has something good only to regress back to a possible negative if that's the case. I believe there are things they are doing that just doesn't seem honest, and that's why this game is really not getting enough buzz. That's why this game is disappointing some people, because they are doing things like this in later interviews and it doesn't seem honest. Still, the Avengers project, this is a game that we have to wait and see how everything goes, but so far there is a lot of negative over the positive. I have to be honest, I have to be true with myself. There is a ton of things about this game that can go wrong. We need that PS4 beta, and we need it right now. Honestly, I just want this game to be good, because we haven't had like a Avengers game in a long time. I know there's been Marvel Heroes team ups in the past and stuff that Capcom did that was awesome, but this is the fucking Avengers and we just want it to be great. We have to see how this news plays out, but so far, like I said, I think they are being kind of dishonest. We're not taking steps forward here, we're taking steps backwards, and overall, I mean, a lot of people just wanted more out of the equation. I'm hoping that the co-op thing fares well, that they actually do listen to people, that they make like campaign co-op and make it fun. That's all we need. We need fun on top of previous established foundations with the beat 'em up genre, with the superhero genre, and we need subverted expectations. If they don't deliver, then they made us wait for so many years for nothing, and we got nothing out of it but a bad game. I think that's going to be very, very fucking disheartening. And if they do that, then oh well. Back to base Spider-Man PS4, y'all. Back to Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, y'all, because that's what people are going to do. They're going to move on to arguably better experiences. This is Renegade Operative signing off. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it, speaking my true thoughts about the positives and negatives of the Avengers project. What do you guys think of the video? Comment below, let me know, like, sub if you enjoyed the video. What do you think of this entire premise in general? Were you excited at first? Are the interviews that are floating around out there turning you off of the game? The more you read, sound off, let me know. And once again, I will see you guys next time. Take care, have fun, and remember, all of my social media is on the screen and in the description below. Hit me up, follow me, do what you gotta do, and I will see you guys next time. Later.